The Tennessee Titans must build around Cam Ward, and that means there are some prospects in the second round that they can't pass on. I'll show you on today's Mock Draft Monday edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland, Titans fans. Today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. It is a Mock Draft Monday edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. I'm going to do a 7-round mock draft and show you what a can't pass moment in the second round would look like. Before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one because there's breaking news all the time right now. Also, the draft is right around the corner, and I go over 200 prospects in detail every single draft season. Plus, we're having mock draft Mondays all the time, just like today. So make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Before we dive into the mock draft, I do want to mention the Tennessee Titans cut Chidobe Awuzie, cornerback who they signed last year. It didn't work out. He only played 8 games for the Titans. There were injuries. It's curious. The Titans are only going to save $2 million by cutting him, but they're going to save $12 million in cash saved, which is important for going out and getting other players in free agency. It's not about the cap space. It's about the actual dollars that you have to pay in one-year contracts to get players to come to your team. So this is going to save the Titans quite a bit of money. It also saves them cap space next year as well, of course, because Awuzie's dead cap all sinks into this year. So they're only going to save about $2 million on the cap, but they're clearing out a bad contract and a bad decision that they made last year. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. now steps up as the starting cornerback, but we'll talk more about that and other free agent targets the Tennessee Titans should still have during the second wave of free agency, how much cap space they have. I'm going to go over all of that stuff in the next couple of episodes. So again, make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. But Cam Ward, number 1 overall, no doubt about it. And it got even more clear this weekend. So we've heard it from some Titans places that people are feeling convinced that Cam Ward is number 1 overall. Obviously, they signed Brandon Allen as their backup quarterback, a guy who's got 18 appearances in his entire career. He's 33 years old. Brandon Allen, and shout out to Corey Curtis for pointing this out, Brandon Allen has less career passing yards than Will Levis had last season. So keep that in mind here. He is a pure backup, which makes it seem like the Titans are absolutely going after Cam Ward. But on the Giants side of things, Jordan Renan, the ESPN reporter for the New York Giants, he said over the weekend that the Giants' plans to trade to number 1 overall, quote, appear dead. Guys, all the signs are pointing here, and there are some of you who are kicking and screaming right now. Look, I preferred a trade down. I preferred Abdul Carter. Those were my preferences. But as I have said throughout the process, if the Tennessee Titans decide, hey, one of these quarterbacks is our franchise quarterback, the future of our team, and we're taking him number 1 overall, that's the conviction that I want to see from the Tennessee Titans, and it's obvious that that is where they are going. So I'm not going to wait and go kicking and screaming to get on board. Cam Ward is the quarterback of the future, and I am supporting him until he's not anymore from here on out. It is the Cam Ward train. We're in here. All right, we're in here. That's the reality. He is going to be your franchise quarterback, and we all need to just get on board and support him. So how do you do that? How do you build around him? Well, when you take Cam Ward number 1 overall, you obviously can't trade back and get more picks, which would immediately lead anyone to think, well, then they need to trade down with pick number 35 in the second round. Well, listen, there are some can't pass prospects at the top of the second round for the Tennessee Titans that I know that a trade down would get them more picks, but at some point you just can't pass on certain guys. And I think especially you look at wide receiver with the talent on the defensive line, the talent on the edge, the lack of top tier or the lack of depth at offensive tackle, meaning that a lot of people are going to take offensive tackle early because there aren't a lot of great depth options after you get through the first 5 or 6. With that in mind, the interior offensive line, there are some good options that could go early. And because this isn't a great draft, you can take non-premium positions higher, like tight end, like running back, like interior offensive line. You could take a guard number 11 if it's a bad draft class, like the Titans did with Peter Skronsky. See what I mean? You could take a guard number 5 overall if you're Jacksonville and get Will Campbell because this draft class isn't that great. So with that in mind, you take Cam Ward number 1 overall, and there could be certain positions that, although they're premium positions, they slide down the board, like wide receiver. Tetaroa McMillan could go later than people expect. Matthew Golden, some people are saying he's the number 1 wide receiver, maybe, but he could go lower than it. I'm thinking like, what was it, 2003, where you had Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers go in like the early 20s. I think it could be like that potentially. And if that happens, and a guy like Emeka Egbuka or a guy like Luther Burden, who you look around at some mock drafts from some reputable names in the industry, and Luther Burden is not always in the first round of these mock drafts. Slot wide receiver, maybe even could play on the outside like Jordan Addison. A lot of people said he would just be in the slot, but he's found a way to play a little bit on the outside. Devontae Smith, same thing. A guy like Luther Burden, I think, is a can't pass prospect if he's available at number 35 for the Tennessee Titans. To be able to pair Luther Burden or a guy like Emeka Egbuka, to pair a guy like that with Cam Ward for the next 5 to 6 years and immediately give him that target. Cam Ward is a guy who's going to be able to create out of structure. He's going to extend plays. He's going to create scramble drills and sandlot opportunities. You want a player that can constantly get open, and when they get their hands on the ball, start making people miss and create even more advantage out of the opportunity that was created by the quarterback in his playmaking. And Luther Burden is that guy. So in this draft, I took Cam Ward number 1 overall, and then Luther Burden was available at number 35. I could have gone with Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, the interior defensive lineman, or Nick Scouton, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M, Demetrius Knight at linebacker, Prince Umami Ellen out of Ole Miss, which was a serious consideration for me. And I went back and forth with Umami Ellen, but I thought it was a bit too high. Trey Harris and Alec Ailmanor were available, but I think the talent of Luther Burden, who probably goes in the first round, but I don't think it would be crazy if he fell to the early second round with, again, non-premium positions maybe going a little bit higher this year. But the point that I'm making with all of this is you have Cam Ward. And while it would be nice to trade down in the second round and get some more picks in the top 100, no doubt about it, that would be nice. The reality is you have to support Cam Ward. You have to give him an opportunity to succeed. And when you look at this wide receiver group with Calvin Ridley and the ghost of Treylon Burks, and then Van Jefferson, Bryce Oliver, is Colton Dowell coming back? Jaquan Jackson? Like, the point I'm making here is there's no way that Cam Ward is going to be supported properly with that cast of characters. And if you don't take Luther Burden, there's a chance you're going to get a guy who's not ready to contribute right away like Luther Burden is. Yards after catch monster, separation, explosive, deep ball tracking. Pair Luther Burden with Cam Ward, and let's ride. Going to day 4, day 3. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's complete financial command, and you can track all of your accounts, all your investments, all your spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I can save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, Monarch lets me check everything all in one place. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use Locked On NFL. That's the code Locked On NFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On NFL for half off your first year. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories to even who's going to cut down the nets. I love picking favorites. I'm not going to lie. The underdogs, this and all that, that's great. But more often than not, it goes chalk. And I can bet the spread, the totals, the game props, and I can stay in the action all tournament long with games happening almost every day. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Again, that's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Titans fans, let's continue today's Mock Draft Monday edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about taking Cam Ward #1 overall, building around Cam Ward and giving him some help with Luther Burden at number 35. But with that, now the Tennessee Titans don't have another pick until day 3 of the draft. It would be pick number 103 now that the compensatory draft picks are finally in the calculus. We know exactly where the Tennessee Titans are picking. So now we have 6 picks on day 3. I'll say this, in a future mock draft Monday, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these 6 day 3 picks, and I'm going to use a couple of them, and I'm going to move back up into the 70s or 80s and get us another additional top 100 pick. So it would be, 1.1, 235, 382, 4103. And, between 120, 141, 167, 178, I'm going to use a couple of those picks and get us back into the top 100 for a pick in a later one. But I didn't do that here. I just stayed where the Titans are at. They want to build around Cam Ward. They had to take Luther Burden. You couldn't pass on the opportunity to pair that kind of talent in the slot and then potentially taking over for Calvin Ridley in a couple of years as the Z wide receiver. Couldn't pass on that. So where do you go from here? Well, 4th round, pick number 103, I was looking at a couple of options. You have Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end from Bowling Green. I think if the Titans get like a really good opportunity, like a Mason Taylor out of LSU, a Colston Loveland, potentially. If the Titans get an opportunity to get a decent tight end, I think they might go ahead and strike. Take talent in this draft class. Take talent. So I was thinking that Gunnar Helm was an option. And I'm like, no. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Maybe Barrett Carter out of Clemson, the linebacker. Barron Sorrell, the edge rusher out of Texas. But ultimately, I went to another Texas defender because the Tennessee Titans brought in Xavier Woods. Amani Hooker's on the last year of his contract. I think there's a good chance that the Tennessee Titans will need 2 safeties next year. I went with Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Texas. 22 years old, 5'11", 186 pounds. Look, he needs to shore up his tackling. He needs to take better angles. He needs to make sure that he's a better tackler from the safety position. He needs to be better with his run fits. Overall, it needs to be better in run defense. But he is a willing player in run defense. And his ball production, the ability to get interceptions and disrupt the ball, his quick trigger when he's a single high safety coming downhill on those dig routes and those post routes. I mean, he could play the back-end center fielder, and if you play him in dime packages early in his rookie season where he's the back deep center fielder, and then Xavier Woods and Amani Hooker can be more of like your curl flat guys or your hook defenders over the middle and a buzz coverage, like sink into the middle of the field as a robber as well. If you can use Xavier Woods and Amani Hooker in those sorts of roles where they're even man coverage on tight ends and running backs. And then you have Andrew Makuba who could play back in your center field. And then next year, after Amani Hooker leaves or after Xavier Woods is gone, now you have a starting safety for the next 4 years. That is a perfect outcome. I think in this draft with what the Titans have done, they need to look to the future. Like, what are we going to need next year. That's what the Titans should be drafting for. What do we need next year? And while you could go with some other options, I think Andrew Makuba right there at round 4, pick 103 would be a great fit. And then you go to pick 120, still in the 4th round, the Titans' second 4th round pick. And I was looking at edge rusher at this point. The Titans absolutely need an edge rusher. And guys like David Walker, who is a smaller player from a small school, but very productive. Only 6 foot on the defensive line, though. I don't think that's what the Titans are looking for. They want big power edges, it appears. Antoine Powell-Ryland out of Virginia Tech. I'm very interested in him. I would love if the Titans came away with him on day 3. Quite honestly, I think he's ready-made to come in right away and contribute to a pass rush. Maybe not the most athletically explosive guy, but a polished guy. Baron Sorrell, again, from Texas. I was considering him 17 picks ago. Looking at it now. But instead, I go with one of my favorite players in the draft. And it's Femi Oladejo, the edge rusher out of UCLA. Only 21 years old. Still only 21 years old. In a bad draft class, I'm going to prioritize some younger guys. Might as well go for potential, because if all of these guys, even the older guys, aren't that great, I might as well take a younger prospect who I can develop, who maybe end up being better. And Oladejo can be a big power edge with a little bit more weight on him. 6'3", 260 pounds, 33.5-inch arms. So length, bulk. All right. He's long. He has a sturdy frame. He's explosive as well. He's got great potential. He could be a gap shooter. And he started as an off-ball linebacker. He's only been an edge for 1 year. Sound like Abdul Carter, right? But because of his history as an off-ball linebacker, not only does he have potential to grow rapidly as an edge rusher because he wasn't playing that originally, but also he's got some versatility and a skill set where he can drop back into coverage because he was an off-ball linebacker, which is helpful when the Titans run those zone blitzes that they run, where they bring a safety or a cornerback or a linebacker off one side and drop an edge rusher into coverage on the other side. With Denard Wilson doing that stuff, that sort of versatility should be prioritized. So the pass rush potential to polish up a guy like Femi Oladejo, look, he doesn't have a ton of moves. He really needs to clean up his technique. But that length, that size, that sturdy of a frame, that sort of potential, that explosive athletic ability, we will coach him up. Give me that guy at pick 120 in the draft. Yes, not a question about it. And then we go to pick number 141. And again, build around Cam Ward. We get Cam Ward, a great young receiver, but then we have to go to the defensive side of the ball for a couple of picks. All right. We go with Makuba. We go with Oladejo. We hit safety. We hit edge. Now it's time to get back to the trenches. Now it's time to get back to the offensive line. And I went at pick number 141, 5th round, with a guy that I really, really want the Titans to pull the trigger on in the draft. And it's Emory Jones Jr., the offensive lineman out of LSU. Now, he was an offensive tackle, right tackle for LSU. I think he should play guard. The Titans want big, powerful players. Emory Jones is 6'5", 315 pounds, 34.75-inch arms. He has great length, great size, and he's only 21 years old. He can get bigger. He can get stronger. Look, he has all the potential in the world. The technique is just bad. And the Titans have Bill Callahan. So let's bring in Emory Jones as a big, powerful, strong guard. Kevin Zeitler is 35 on a 1-year contract. You're going to have to replace Kevin Zeitler next year. He's a 1-year hole filler. So get his replacement now. Let him learn how to be a pro from Kevin Zeitler. Let him learn how to be a pro from Lloyd Cushenberry. That's what they need to do. Imagine a right side of 6'5", 320 Emory Jones and 6'5", 340 J.C. Latham. Bullies. Get Emory Jones. Get your long-term solution at right guard. Let Bill Callahan coach him up. Let Kevin Zeitler mentor him. Perfect. Perfect, man. The Titans get Emory Jones. Look, and I know there are risks. All right. Raw technique. I don't know about, character and stuff like that. So, but I'm all in. I'm all in on Emory Jones. Let's get this young guy in here and let's coach him up. Like, that's the type of talent and youth that I'm taking a chance on with my day 3 picks in the NFL draft. But let's round this thing out. We got 3 more picks, and we got some great, reliable depth coming at the end of the draft. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. It is a mock draft Monday, and I can already hear the YouTube. It's Sunday night. Shut up. Shut up. You're lucky you get it early, all right? But anyway, all jokes aside, we got to finish out this mock draft Monday. We've made 5 picks so far. I am overly excited about the way that this mock draft turned out. Before we cap it off, do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL. Obviously, a busy time in the NFL. I host the Locked On NFL show for the Locked On Podcast Network, so I would appreciate your support, and you can get caught up on all the NFL news that happened for over the weekend. But with that being said, we move to pick 167. We're still in the 5th round. To this point, we have Cam Ward, pick 1.1. We have Luther Burden, pick 2.35. We have Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Texas, round 4, pick 103. Then we went with Femi Oladejo, the edge rusher, round 4, pick 120. And Emory Jones, LSU, the interior offensive lineman, round 5, pick 141. Round 5, pick 167. I went with a pick that you're probably going to hear in every mock draft I do, and it's Ollie Gordon. I want Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State. 6 foot, 200 pounds, power back, great in pass protection, capable of catching the ball out of the backfield. Maybe doesn't have high-end explosiveness. Maybe not the best wiggle in the world. Obviously, he was a more highly regarded prospect last year's draft cycle. Maybe should have came out. I don't know his year, if that was possible for him. I don't think it was, actually. I think it was a sophomore. But anyways, Ollie Gordon would be a perfect fit with Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard. He would be a perfect part of that committee. He would be a power back that can fall forward. He can be short yardage. He can be goal line. He's good enough in pass protection to be out there as a 3rd down back as well, so teams can't know if the Titans are running up the gut or if they're throwing. He'd be so perfect in a read option with Cam Ward and short yardage. Look, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are both good running backs. Tony Pollard's going to fall apart if Tajay Spears gets hurt again. Tajay Spears can't handle a lead back role because he'll get hurt. And neither of them are very good in short yardage power situation. So Ollie Gordon would be absolutely fantastic. I'm going to keep pounding the table for that as a day 3 fit for the Titans. We moved to round 6. Pick 178. I went with Deontay Thompson, the wide receiver out of Tennessee. 6'5", ran a 4.3 at the combine. Look, right now, what I'm looking for from Deontay Thompson is be a special teamer. You're 6'5", you're big, you're fast, run down the field and hit somebody. Like, that's what I need from you right now. But what the Titans really need is speed. And if they could have some size to go along with that, that would be great, because they don't have either right now. Treylon Burks, whatever. Again, the ghost. I'm not talking about Treylon Burks. He is not a factor here. So you have Van Jefferson at the end of his career, not a speed demon. Calvin Ridley has speed for sure, but he's not overly big and physical. And then Jaquan Jackson, small, quick, more than fast. Bryce Oliver, pedestrian size. He's like 6 foot. Not a speed demon. You know what I mean? Like, the Titans just don't have a ton of talent at wide receiver right now. So if you can get a guy who's 6'5" with speed, who can help on special teams right away, and maybe you could throw into some packages and maybe you could develop. I think hitting wide receiver twice is a great move, and getting a hometown guy from Tennessee to come in and fill a depth role, I absolutely love that. I love that. And then finally, last pick in the draft, 6th round, pick 188. The Titans, remember, they gave Kenneth Murray in a 7th to the Cowboys to move up to the 6th round. Masterful move by Mike Borgonzi. You get rid of a bad contract, get rid of a bad player, and move up from the 7th to the 6th. Love that. And now you might be able to package one of these 6th round picks with one of your 4th round picks and move up into the 3rd round. Just masterful stuff, really. But with the last pick in the draft, I'm going to go with the player who's already had a visit with the Titans. Probably going to be what happens every year with these mock drafts is I get a couple of guys in the late rounds that I just love, and I get them every time. Josh Wiley was one of those guys. Sugar Conquo was one of those guys as well. But anyways, Cam Jackson, defensive lineman out of Florida. He's a big run-stuffing nose tackle, 6'6", 328 pounds. He would be a perfect backup to T'Vondre Sweat. And quite frankly, Sweat is quick enough and athletic enough to play the 3 technique, the Jeffrey Simmons position. And then you could have Cam Jackson in T'Vondre Sweat's position if you were in like heavy run scenarios or you just wanted to get Jeffrey Simmons off the field for a blow for a little bit. Imagine trying to run the ball on T'Vondre Sweat at 3 tech and Cam Jackson 6'6", 328 at nose tackle. Like imagine trying to do that. You're not going to get very far. And I think the Titans are trying to get bigger on the defensive line. They want bigger edge rushers. They want bigger interior offensive linemen. They just want to be bigger. Again, Emory Jones, bigger on the offensive line. We just want to get bigger. So I love this haul. I can't lie to you. I was almost in tears with emotions with how happy I am about this haul. Cam Ward, number 1 overall. Pair him with Luther Burden at pick number 35. Andrew Makuba, the safety. Femi Oladipo, the edge rusher. Emory Jones at guard. Ollie Gordon is the 3rd running back. Deontay Thompson, Thornton Jr. Did I say Thompson? I did write down Thompson. Deontay Thornton Jr. Dante Thornton Jr. Sorry, I'm all over the map with my bad notes. I write like a doctor. Cam Jackson in the interior defensive line. We hit wide receiver twice. We get safety. We get guard. We get edge. We get running back. We get interior defensive line and a great interior defensive line class. That's how you support your young quarterback. That's how you support the defense. Build for the future. Absolutely love what we did here. Let me know your grade for my mock draft down below in the comments or hit me up on Twitter at Tic Tac Titans. But with that being said, again, tomorrow we're going to look at the salary cap. Also look at some free agent options tomorrow, Wednesday. Not certain what order I'm going to do the episodes in. If there's more Tennessee Titans news that pops up, we'll be all over that as well. But it's going to be a crazy off season, and we're already halfway through it. But that's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.